Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to Heat Pumps and Cardigans. This is our podcast, videocast of in-depth conversations with folks making some of the most exciting heat pumps out there. This is 21st century technology that heats and cools our homes, provides us with steamy showers, all while using a fraction of the energy of that 20th century tech. This show is a collaboration between the Advanced Water Heating Initiative, a nonprofit-led initiative that is trying to transform the market for heat pump water heaters, and Clean Technica, one of the largest U.S. online publications focusing on clean technologies. I'm Joe Wachunas with New Buildings Institute, and what better way to get into the weeds on heat pumps than wearing cozy cardigans, heat pumps and cardigans. For those of you tuning into the podcast, you'll have to imagine us wearing cardigans, but I'm wearing a red cardigan today, and my guests Craig and Dan are wearing some good-looking cardigans as well. Thanks for that, guys. Let's dive into today's shows. We are so excited for the inaugural show for Heat Pumps and Cardigans to have GE Appliances to talk about their profile GEOSPRING heat pump water heater. GE is back in the heat pump water heater game after an absence of a couple years, and boy, are they coming back with a bang. They've got a heat pump water heater with a ton of innovation, and they've even dressed it up in a cardigan. Dan, maybe show us that slide with the heat pump water, the GE heat pump water heater in a cardigan. Perfect. As you're seeing here, they've even dressed up their heat pump water heater in a cardigan. And Dan, there's more than just a cardigan on your water heater. What else are we seeing?
Absolutely, yeah. So Craig and I are based in Louisville, Kentucky, is where our GE Appliances headquarters business is, and so we just came out of Derby month, and so what better way to display the heat pump water heater than not only in a cardigan, but also with thoroughbreds running underneath it, with a mint julep in hand, and also the famous roses around the neck there for the winter. So.
Love it. Well, thank you for that. All right. Well, without further ado, let me introduce our two guests today. I'm joined by Craig Tsai, Director of Design Engineering at GE Appliances in water heating. He's based in Louisville, as Dan was saying. Craig has got over 38 years of experience at GE Appliances. That is a long time, Craig. Amazing. He's been leading the design and evolution of the GE GEOSPRING since the early days, and we're going to get do a deep dive on the early days of heat pump water heaters. Prior to water heating, Craig worked in the designs of refrigeration, air conditioning, compressor, and hermetic sealed systems. So that's brought him a lot of this necessary knowledge and experience to help advance heat pump water heating and its product category. He's got a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from GMI Kettering University and a master's degree in engineering from Purdue University. And in his spare time, Craig plays violin, tennis, and he loves to cook. Craig, thanks for being here today.
Hey, thanks, Joe.
Thanks for being on the show. Great. And he's joined by his colleague, Dan Capelli. He's the Director of Product Management in Water Heating at GE Appliances, based in Louisville as well. Dan attended Purdue. He earned a BS in engineering and later received his MBA from Indiana Wesleyan University. He's been at GE a long time with 22 years of experience. You guys are amazing. During this time, he's been covering a broad range of product categories, including water heating, water filtration, air conditioning, water softening, dehumidifiers, refrigeration. So he's got a broad range of experience like Craig that helps him understand all the interactions that are happening in the heat pump water heater, as well as consumer expectations and values. So, hey guys, welcome to Heat Pumps and Cardigans. Thanks for being on the show today and talking about this really innovative water heater.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate you guys having us on the show. This is fantastic.
Yeah, for the inaugural show at that.
Yeah, right. Well, it's an inaugural show with a really exciting product, and we're gonna do a deep dive into the heat pump water heater specifically in today's show. But before we do that, let's just talk a little bit about it is heat pumps and cardigans. So let's talk a bit about all of GE's range of products of cardigans. Dan and Craig, what does GE produce in the way of heat pumps, and how does that take form in all these different appliances?
Yeah, Joe, with GE Appliances and the background that we've got and the channels that we touch, we've got so many heat pumps in our offering. Here's just a sampling of what we've got that we're showing on the screen right now. Starting on the left-hand side, obviously we're into the air conditioning, the heating, the HVAC side of things. This is a window unit here that's a heat pump window unit, one of our newest launches there. We've also got home HVAC ducted systems with heat pumps. We've got P-tax for commercial applications. We've got large commercial applications with heat pumps as well. Pretty wide variety when it comes to the HVAC side of the industry. And then center stage, laundry, right? Who would have thought of laundry with heat pumps? But this is our new all-in-one combo that we've had out there for a few years. And I think you've got your own personal story to share about that product, but fantastic product launch, and we've had a lot of success here at GE Appliances with that. And then on the far right-hand side, this is the one we are more passionate about here with Craig and myself, and this is our 4th generation heat pump water heater. This product, I'll tell you, by the way, is the highest in performance, highest in efficiency that you're going to find out there in the industry today. So we're really excited to talk to you about this one today.
All right, that's great. That's a great, range of products, and I'm glad you're tying that all-in-one washer and heat pump dryer together. As I actually just recently acquired one of these great washer dryers, and I have to say they are game-changing. It took this appliance, the dryer, the heat pump dryer, which it was kind of small and slow, and then GE combined it with the washer, made it bigger, and it's got so many features. We're not going to get into that too much today, but you wash and dry your clothes in 2 hours. It uses a fraction of the energy. So it's got both convenience and efficiency that's combined. And I think we're going to see a lot of that in the water heater that we're going to do the deep dive on today. So really, really excited about that. Craig, did you want to add anything there?
Yeah, I was just saying, Joe, it's kind of funny. It does kind of have time, because I remember when we first start this journey on our generation 1. By the way, on my shirt, it was the original GeoSpring. I don't know if you can see it. That was the original GeoSpring, the generation 1. But right alongside of it, and we called it Skunk Works at that time, it was kind of our R&D, advanced development laboratory, when we work on new ideas at that time. So right beside it, that's what we were. They were another group of engineers working on the heat pump water heater. Heat pump dryer, alongside my heat pump water heater. So, wow, I saw the very, very early prototypes of that, and believe me, it's not like what you have now.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, so the research was happening at the same time for the heat pump dryer and the heat pump water heater.
It was going on. Yes, it was going. It was, I guess it was like 15, 17 years ago. We were already thinking about it at that time.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, well, let's do a deep dive on the water heater. We're going to talk about this new offering that y'all have and that you've been working on for a long time. And to set the stage, we're going to talk about a lot of features that the GE GeoSpring has, and we're going to go down the list and look at them each in depth. But to set the stage, Dan's going to play a little 1-minute video of this product. And for those of you just tuning in to the podcast, there is some voiceover with this video, so you'll get an idea of what's going on. It's a little, it's a marketing video, so it's a little salesy, but it provides a really good overview of this water heater. So Dan, turn it over to you. Set the stage a little bit. What is this video going to be talking about?
Yeah, so good point about it's a great marketing video. It's really meant to really simplify what a heat pump water heater is, because these are complicated products, and sometimes there's a lot of confusion out there about, it's too super complicated, I don't want to make the change. But really, when you break it down and look at it, this video helps to kind of simplify how they work and some of the cool features that we put into this product itself. So with that, I will let the video kind of do its talking, and I'll kind of wrap up right afterwards. How about that?
Introducing the GE Profile GeoSpring Heat Pump Water Heater with FlexCAPACITY, the first to combine 3 powerful technologies, providing you more hot water more efficiently. Innovative electric heat pump technology that harnesses heat from ambient air and amplifies it into water heating power, resulting in up to 4.7 times more efficiency than traditional water heaters. The flexible capacity water heater heats water hotter. Then an integrated valve precisely mixes in cold, so your 50-gallon water heater acts like it's 80. The most advanced water heater. Up to 4.7 times more energy efficiency. Up to 60% more hot water. total control.
Yeah, and hopefully that gave a good insight to it. But when we talk about flex capacity, in layman's terms, it's simply an electronically controlled mixing valve. We've deemed it flex capacity because of the flexibility that it offers. You can turn it on or off. I know we're going to get into those features and deeper discussion, but anyway, the video really highlights the overall great efficiency we've got on this product. 4.7 times more energy efficient than standard electric products. That's huge, right? The mixing valve that we put in the products to give you more usable hot water when you need it. And that's why we call it flexible, because you can turn it on or off at the water heater or remotely. And so we're really excited about this product. So
awesome. Well, I am too. And so let's do a deep dive on all of these features. Okay, but before we get to the exact features, I mean, GE with its long and storied history in heat pump water heaters, heat pump water heaters go back 15 years or so. GE was there at the beginning, but I'm not, I don't know the entire history, and you guys were working on this at the time. So tell us a little bit, how did heat pump water heaters get going? How did GE get involved in heat pump water heaters? And what did it look like in the early days? And how did we progress to this latest product?
Yeah, and like Craig mentioned earlier, our company is really around innovation and forward-looking approaches, and so that was kind of in the early days the concept behind this, right? So there was a challenge out by Energy Star. How do you make an Energy Star, more energy efficient water heater? And so Craig and the team stepped up and they addressed that with our Gen 1 product that you see here that Craig's got on his shirt as well. And that was really the start of everything for us. We launched that back in the 08 kind of time frame, so it's been around for quite a while. That was just the start of our journey, though. So from there, then we got into our Gen 2 product, which basically increased performance, increased efficiencies. And so we've just kind of gotten better over the years. From there, we went to a Gen 3. Gen 3, once again, better performance, more energy efficiency, and we introduced larger capacities at that point. Then between Gen 3 and then what we're getting ready to really deep dive in today with our Gen 4 product that we're launching this year, we actually stepped back and we said, hey, let's expand our offering. Let's expand the GE water heating portfolio. So in between there, we've created a full offering of standard electric products, standard gas products, power vent products, so that we could kind of fill the other needs that our customers are looking for. But for today, we really wanted to focus on the heat pump water heater with the innovation, the technology, the efficiency, and just everything that it has to offer. So yeah. It's a little bit of history.
Yeah, and Joe, personally, for me, how I got into the hybrid is, well, at that time, around 2005, 2008, hybrid cars was the in then. This is before the EV and stuff like that. Right. So, when they start recruiting me, I say, well, okay, what is this? This is a hybrid? Okay. Well, instead of getting a hybrid car, I can just design this instead. So that's how I got into it. It's just because it was called hybrid.
Yeah, that was an interesting. I mean, the hybrid has kind of fallen out of use as a name to describe. Now it's more referred to as a heat pump water heater.
Heat pump water heater.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, we still, at least in some part, we do, when needed, we still use backup electric, inefficient heating, as a backup source. Now, with the latest generation, that's what we can talk about. We try to minimize that as much as possible in terms of that. But even in the old generation of, let's say, Gen 1 and stuff like it, compared to, let's say, the energy savings, the fuel efficiency savings of a car, between a regular gasoline power, let's say a Toyota a Corolla or whatever, versus a hybrid version of that, you're talking about savings at that point, and we're talking about 2010, and it's still hasn't changed that much, to tell the truth. Somewhere between 20 to 30%, efficiency gain, versus even, when we step on even the Gen 1, we're talking about, in terms of overall efficiency, 2 times more and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think most
Yeah,
people, it's hard to wrap your brain around that just, levels of magnitude more efficient. Yeah, it's not just 20% more efficient. We're talking 200%, even in the Gen 1. And now, as
right.
we'll see in a bit, we're talking 400% more efficient.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, cool. All right. Well, thanks for that walk down memory lane and a little bit of background on how we got to where we are. But in these 15 plus years that you all have been making heat pump water heaters, talk to us a little bit about what went into the design for this latest one. Dan, you alluded to this a little bit, but you know, as you're improving your heat pump water heater, what did you want to tackle with this latest version, and what were some of the high level thoughts behind the design of this?
Yeah, I'll just kick off with a couple of bullet points, but really I want Craig to do the deep dive on this. But again, this is our fourth generation product that we're launching in the heat pump category, 4.7 times more energy efficient. So I'm going to put that in perspective, and versus standard electric, 4.7 times. And to your point about the magnitude, it's a level above, quite a bit above a standard electric. But even within the heat pump category, that what we're delivering is actually 20% more energy efficient than kind of the category is today. So we've really taken, even in a product that's so energy efficient, we've taken that up to the next level.
Yeah,
And
it's about
really,
two. It basically we double our efficiency from our first generation. So
Wow.
generation one, we were, let's say in this 2.4 region, and now we're up to 4.5. So we double what we originally in our Gen 1 generation.
so
Great. Yeah,
I
that's
mean, it's
the
an incredible journey with that. So
yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Dan. Do you want to finish your thoughts, and then we'll anything
well,
else
no, I
on
wanted to
design?
kind of set the stage with that, and then I wanted to kind of pass it over to Craig, kind of talk about the design process, design history behind where we are today, and what better person to talk about that than Craig. So
Yeah, I mean, I think, ever since when we started, like you say, 15 years ago, I mean, there has been a lot of learnings. This was a new product when we launched Gen 1. We kind of, gave our best shot, in terms of what we think, this product is. But between all the successive generations, and even during this, between Gen 3 and Gen 4, to tell the truth, we got to, there has been some things that happen, in the world and in terms of regulation and stuff like that, and in terms of even not just federal regulation into the local levels, state levels, there's been changes. So we got to kind of rethink of all those, in terms of take stock in terms of, for instance, between Gen 3 and the 120 volt has become in forefront,
Yeah.
right? And so we would start thinking about doing that, and what can we do, because there are weaknesses, as some of this so how can we compensate for that, in terms of connectivity, this demand response between 10 years ago to now. We kind of was talking about it when we during 15 years ago, but to tell the truth, it's just talking. Okay.
Sure.
But
Sure.
since then, there's been a real push and real desire and real need. In terms of because of the fossil fuel, in terms of alternative energy, renewable energy, in terms of the overall electric grid, electrification and stuff like that, that this demand response becomes very important. So we have to take that into consideration into this new generation, right?
Yeah.
And finally, in terms of overall environment, in terms of it's very efficient and it's very environmental product. So we took what could besides that, and that's why we decided to take the step and also make the refrigerant a global environmental friendly green product along with it, on
Yeah.
that. Okay, so this would not be okay. We're doing this, but we're putting something that's with a global warming impact. So we decided to just, bite the bullet and take that down, in which we, we can say it with with honest face that we're truly a environmental friendly product.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking about three key trends there, Craig. I mean, the fact that there is a push for decarbonization and electrification. In the first 15 years, there's a new 120 volt product that plugs into an outlet that's easier to convert a gas water heater to a heat pump water heater. That went into your thinking. This low global warming potential refrigerant went into your thinking. And the efficiency. So yeah, lots of trends in the ensuing in these first years since that Gen 1 came out. But let's dive into each of these features. I think it's we've
Sure.
got folks waiting long enough. You've got the page up there kind of listing out some of our bullets, Dan, but let's start with one of my favorite and I think one of the most exciting things about this product. I'm going to set the stage with the fact that I've got an electric vehicle, and the plug that my electric vehicle comes with can work on a 110 volt outlet, your standard plug, and then I can pull that apart and put in a 240 volt plug and plug it into a 240 volt outlet. So it can be either on 120 volts or 240 volts. But water heaters have not been, heat pump water heaters, excuse me, have not been that way so far. We started, in the early days with 240 volt hardwired heat pump water heaters. And then recently, in the last 5 years, we've had 120 volt water heaters that plug into a standard outlet. There's pluses and minuses to both. But you all have created a water heater that can be both 240 volts and 120 volts. It can be converted in the field, at somebody's home. So that's super exciting. It's no longer do you have two separate products. You've merged them into one. Talk to us about your thinking behind doing this 120 volt and 240 volt in the same option, and what kind of benefits does that provide to the person that gets this water heater?
Yeah, I mean, Joe, as we were talking about specifically, in terms of 120 volt product, um, one of the kind of the minus disadvantage, you think of that the 240 volt, cousin do not have, is that when you run out of hot water, when you totally deplete of hot water, it just takes a long time because you just do not have the enough oomph that you can have in order
You're
to
just
do that.
using the heat pump to recover with the hot water, and you don't have
Now,
that backup electric resistance.
that's right.
Boost.
Now,
Yeah.
we try to make the 120 better, okay? Number one, because like we said, we put that integrated mixing valve, that FlexCAPACITY, to give you possibly more storage, okay, on the same footprint, so to get more hot water. But even that, also in addition to help the 120 volt we have a variable speed in which we actually, rather than a single speed, so we can actually, increase the heating rate using the heat pump. Okay, so is in order to recover faster. But at the end of the day, there's going to be still some fretting going on that might not be enough. So we said, well, what can we do? Especially with some of these that maybe they start out with 120 volt, okay, because that's all they have in terms of, but later on they want to upgrade. They will have the ability to upgrade.
Well, let's
Okay,
talk about that, Craig. I mean, so somebody installs the GE GEOSPRING, this 4th gen, and
right.
let's say they're replacing a natural gas water heater. They don't have that electric supply
Right, yeah,
right there at their water
right.
heater,
It's an
but they
emergency
have an
replacement.
outlet.
Right.
They have an
Yep.
outlet right near, in their basement where they're installing this water heater. So they plug in their new GE GEOSPRING and they run it just on that 120 volts for a while. And then they have, so
And
what's
and
their
they might
thinking?
be
They can,
fine. They
yeah.
might be fine, but if they want to, let's say, have extra performance. When we say extra performance, it's both efficiency wise, okay, and let's say recovery when they deplete a hot water. So it's both. If they want that extra oomph of performance, okay, they do not have to replace the whole water heater. Okay, they can essentially basically remove the plug, okay, and remove the plug and then plug in 240 volt voltage power supply, directly connected to it, and the water heater itself will automatically sense that it is on a 240 volt high voltage, and basically, like we said, convert to like a 240 volt water heater with its performance that that it touts in terms of faster recovery rate and higher efficiency.
Wow. That
Yeah,
just feels like
and
a.
along
Go
with
ahead.
that, we've addressed a bunch of pain points too. So the other part of that is the plumbers, right? They don't want to go out and have to change out a water heater. This gives them an option about not having to pull out a water heater, but just then rewiring it for that better performance. So
Yeah, I can't. I don't think we could talk the whole hour just on this feature. It's really it's really exciting because it does. We know that most of the time people are not proactively replacing their water heaters. It's my water heater breaks. I need one today. But if you want to switch to a heat pump, and you don't have that the 240 volt electrical line, you can just plug in this 120 volt, get that done same day, replacement, and then you can see if that meets your hot water
Yeah,
needs.
if it meets your requirement, great.
And I gotta say, I
Super.
run my heat pump water heater in heat pump mode only mode, all the time. So, and it meets our family's needs. Some people might not though. You might have days where you have a lot of hot water usage and you want that extra boost in backup. So here you don't have to switch out the whole water heater. You just have to run a new wire there, and then you can. How long does it take to convert it from 120 volt to 240 volt?
It's like I said, it's essentially is removing the cord, okay, and basically connecting. So if you think about removing the cord, is three wire connections. Put in a new one, replace the three wire connections. So it's three wire connections on the
yeah,
electrical junction box, like what you normally would be doing wiring for a regular 240 volt water heater.
yeah, and Craig's even made that easier too, by the way. So it's no longer wire nuts that you have to worry about inside the J box. We use these
Wago
easy to
connectors.
connect WAGO connectors. Yeah, so think of them almost like the shark bite of electrical
Nice.
connectors. It makes the job so easy. You don't have to worry about, did
Yeah.
I connect the wire nuts correctly? And the feedback we've gotten from the trade on just those connectors, which
Oh,
are, by the
plumbers
way, a
love them.
standard.
Plumbers
Yeah,
love them.
and it's a
That's
standard
great.
connector we've been using for years now on our standard electric products, and the feedback has been fantastic on those. So things like that, little innovative things, Craig has put into the design of this product just to make this thing, as easy to maintain, as easy to change out as possible. So
Yeah,
Wow,
once
that's
you
fantastic.
start using it, it's hard to go back. To tell the truth.
yeah.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, making those electrical connections easier. Yeah, that seems like a no-brainer. Okay, maybe just to finish out on this really key feature, were there any innovations that you had to make to be able to, nobody done this before? Did you have to reinvent, not reinvent the wheel, but create something totally new? Was it an easy thing to make it field convertible,
Well,
or no?
it I think what it ended up being is that we saw that when we saw that 120, and I heard the feedback, we heard heat feedback say, hey, in the future, as maybe they're trying to go for EV chargers and start getting into the capacity in their certain, that it would be a shame that they're still stuck with it 120, and so that's how got our thinking going in terms of, hey, what can we do? And to answer your question, Joe, yes, we had to make some conscious decisions on our heat pump components and design, and actually strategy, to tell the truth, in terms of being able to do that.
Hmm.
And I would kind of akin to, you got to basically think about it and design it, start that way in order to have a thing that's convertible to 120 and 240.
So from the beginning, design it that way. That's great. And you brought up one point, and this will be our last point on the field convertible 120 240. the water heater, you were talking about EV charging, and we hear a little bit in this, us nerds in this industry, about maybe having your electric water heater be able to share a circuit with a EV charger. We've heard that before that can't work for other water heaters, but since this one can switch between 120 and 240, could it use a circuit sharing device and share a circuit with another appliance?
You're talking about between 240, sure. For instance, if you again, you got to have the proper, let's say, switching circuit breakers and stuff like that to do it. But if you do, you definitely could say, let's say, you plug in your EV charger 240 volt because you just got home. You plug that in. This, let's say the smart switching could just switch this automatically to a 120 volt while the EV is charging. And then when the EV charging you're not charging, then you're back to 240. So you can be and that's fine because to my water heater, I should be able to automatically see what's going on, whether I'm plugged into a 120 volt or 240 and do the appropriate things.
That's great. So a lot of options with this flexible voltage. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm saying you do not have to put any manual switch settings. Say, hey, I'm on 240 or 120. You'll automatically detect that by itself.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, fantastic. Because people don't want to be thinking about that.
Right.
Great. Well, Dan, let's look at I know you've got a slide that shows a little bit about the lineup. Let's look at like some of the efficiency levels. Talk to us about, you've alluded to this a little bit before, but that UEF, the uniform energy factor, which is the rating for how efficient heat pump water heaters. Just to give context, an electric resistance is typically close to a 1. So all the energy you put in, you get out as heat. And you can see here that at the bottom, you were talking, most of them are over 4. So talk to us about how you all talked about this efficiency numbers, how you all got so high, and anything else you want to share on those.
Okay. Craig, would you like to lead off on this?
Yeah. I mean, as you can see, if you go look at it, and let's just, you look at the 240 volt version. Okay, as you can see, all of those, like you said, the UEF, the uniform energy factor, are all above 4. Okay, and granted, what we have shown here is 40 and 50 gallon. Okay, maybe if I look at some of what was in, there might be some that's peaking right above 4, but those are the high one. Those are let's say the 65 gallons and the 80 gallons. What we're showing is actually the smaller tank, which usually struggles with these energy factor, and they are all, the 240 are all peaking at 4. Okay, number 1 would be the first hour of recovery rate. All those are all on top of their category in their gallon, in terms of 75, 77 for the 50 and 64 for the 40. All those are on the top tier, if not the top, for a respective
Craig,
category.
how did you get that extra 20% efficiency from a product that's already so efficient? And how are you squeezing out more efficiency from?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's the seal system design components. Okay, in terms of getting, for instance, a variable speed brushless DC motor compressor. Okay. Besides, the advantage of what we just talked about in terms of, variable heating rate. So if you're running hot water, you're going to be able to heat faster than a single speed compressor. It also, allows you, by itself being a DC, being a lot more efficient than, let's say, AC motor single speed compressor counterpart. That's just one part,
So the variable speed is key, and we've been seeing variable speed compressors in the air source heat pumps for years, but it's not many manufacturers doing that in the heat pump water heater space. So good to see you all doing that.
Yeah, so that's one component. The other one, of course, the fans and stuff like that. It's also, like, similarly variable speed. Okay, so brushless DC, variable speed. So all of those in terms of you might could think of it as being DC ties. Okay,
Got it.
remember a long time there was a battle between Edison and Tesla in terms of whether AC or DC wins in the whole transmission. Well, Edison won for a while, for maybe over 150 years. But in maybe for the long-term space, AC, but recently, Tesla might be winning here, at least in the heat pump battle, in terms of DC being better.
A lot more
So
efficient.
a
Yeah.
lot more efficient.
Okay. Cool. Well, while we're on this slide looking at some of the efficiency levels, let's talk about another huge innovation that's part of this new GE water heater, the integrated mixing valve. Just to kind of set the stage, if you can store water hotter, you effectively get more hot water out of your tank. So yeah, a lot of us might know that, oh, we're not getting enough hot water. We turn we dial up our tank or turn it up higher. I run my tank higher, and a lot of times you can install a mixing valve that mixes cold water in, so you don't have scalding water coming out of your water heater. You all have put that mixing valve into your water heater. Now, we've seen that with other manufacturers of heat pump water heaters, but it's usually with just their 120 volt heat pump water heater. Talk to us about your mixing valve. There's a lot going on here, so I'll turn it over to you, Dan and Craig. Talk to us about all the innovation here.
Yeah, so some of the key features behind it, and I want Craig to do a little more deep dive on this too, is that the feature that we've got on this heat pump, we actually launched this on some standard electric product roughly 5-6 years ago, something like that. So we've had it out there in the industry for a while, and really we developed that feature really with heat pumps in mind because of the slower recovery rates that are typically found in heat pumps. But it is an innovative feature. It's something you can turn on or off, and on the screen here, I'm showing you the button either on the water heater itself. You can also control it from your app on your phone. You can even schedule it to come on and off at different points during the day, right? It's really a lot of flexibility built into this. But if early in the conversation we were talking about, hey, if the water heater's keeping up and you don't need to use this feature, don't use it. Let's say you're an empty nester and you've got kids coming back home for summer breaks, or let's say holidays are approaching, and you're hosting, your home goes from 3 people to 6 or 7 or 8. Now you've got a feature built in so that nobody runs out of hot water, and you can kind of keep up with the demand. So you flip it up into the extra high setting, and we can deliver up to 60% more usable hot water out of the same tank. It's a big deal, right? So typically a lot of times you have to upsize when it comes to heat pumps. And with this feature, you can really kind of look at that and say, how often do I really need to worry about upsizing the tank when I can, get this 60%, up to 60% more usable hot water out of the same tank?
So Joe, so you understand the goal, at least when we're trying to, in terms of using this, is to, remember we talking about the hybrid. We do not want, the goal of this is to give you enough hot water so you don't run out and you have to use the inefficient electric heating element. Okay.
Right.
So so this whole goal, at least for the heat pump wise, yes, is to give you enough hot water, okay, for let's say maybe 2 weeks or some short-term period of time that you don't need it usually, okay? But also, maybe you just don't have room for an 80-gallon. I'm sorry, you don't. But, just because, but you still want the, efficiency of it, okay? This gets you at least a compromise that you can still get, a heat pump water heater, even though you don't have room for an 80-gallon, okay,
Yeah.
and still be able to operate heat pump efficiently rather than relying on, let's say, standard electric heating element.
Those are great points for both. So I think the standard rule of thumb that's emerged in these first 15 years is, all right, if you've had a gas water heater, they can burn really fast, heat water really fast.
Right.
You might, if you had a 40-gallon gas, you might want a bigger tank for a heat pump water heater, a 65-gallon, or Craig was saying 80-gallon. But those are big tanks. They're more expensive, and you might not have the room. It might be too expensive. Here, it's one unit, but you can store the water a lot hotter if you need to. There's some efficiency penalty, I'm sure. The hotter the water you get, the less efficient it is. But you can, as Dan was saying, temporarily heat that water hotter during the holidays.
And even hotter is still, let's say a lot more efficient than going standard electric. It's a lot more efficient. You still get in most of the benefits, energy efficiency wise.
And Joe, we've also addressed another plumber's pain point with this too. So we've got some other technology built into the valve itself to address, reliability over the lifespan of the product. And what I'm talking about is we cycle it every so often so that we clean off the sealing surfaces within the mixing valve itself. And that has been a kind of a pain point for the trade. That it's one more thing that we've listened to them on and addressed it in certain ways. So
another thing is just for the mixing valve, we want to be integrated. Put in an external mixing valve. To me, there's too many risks for that. If it breaks, I don't know what's on with this. By having integrated in the unit, I know if there's a problem with mixing valve, I control what goes out of my water heater. Versus you put a mixing valve, external mixing valve, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what temperature I'm really delivering to what I'm going. But with it all integrated to my water heater, I can control the quality, I can control the performance, and at the end of the day, I can control the satisfaction.
Wow. Yeah, well, that's super exciting. Yeah, those are real innovations. And I guess maybe my last question on this. So folks can, we're looking at a picture that shows 120 degrees the standards. Folks can fiddle with that plus or minus button and that's the temperature that the water is going to come out at the hottest setting.
That is the delivered water.
Got it.
That is the delivered water. That is not what the tank is storing up. That's delivered. So I have some people. Some people who's field testing these prior to this, for instance, they need some hot water to, let's say, clean their cars. This is a car. So he wants, he set it up and he put it temporarily to 140, degree water so he can, have high enough water to degrease and stuff like that. Does a nice job. So, and then once he's done filling up using that, then he turned it back down to 120 to a normal operation.
Got it.
So there's that flexibility that you have because of now it's fairly easy to say, hey, I want my delivered water coming out to be, whatever temperature it is.
Cool. So folks can both, play with what kind of temperature they want the water to come out. Kind of, and most water heaters can do that. But the real innovation is that they can also set, the storage temperature here, and with these three settings: normal, high, and extra high, and that'll change the storage temperature of the water.
Yeah, I think what we want to do is change the paradigm. What people do without this mix up in order to get more hot water. Besides changing the water heater to a bigger size, is that they bump up the user set temperature.
Got it.
We want to change that paradigm. Is that water should be what is safe and what you like to be, not because you have to compromise because you don't have enough hot water. So now you're risking scalding and hazard by bumping up the temperature.
Yeah.
So we want to change that paradigm.
That makes good sense. Along this, similar topic here. It touches a little bit on the efficiency and on this and storing the water, really hot. Y'all are switching, as you alluded to a different refrigerant that has a low global warming potential. For folks who aren't geeking out on refrigerant every day, these heat pumps use refrigerant to move heat, and they some refrigerants have high global warming potential. So if they escape the heat pump, they can heat the planet up. Really high. I mean, some are at 2,500, so that's 2,500 times more than carbon dioxide. So there's a big movement to lower the global warming potential of refrigerants. And we've seen that in lots of air source heat pumps. There's new regulations coming worldwide. But heat pump water heaters haven't seen a lot of innovation with low GWP refrigerants yet. Most folks are using higher GWP refrigerants. You all are using a very low GWP. It's under 10, is that right? And that is super low. So talk to us about your refrigerant. Am I right on that under 10
Yeah,
GWP?
and we can go more detail. We put under 10 because that's easy to remember, but to tell to tell the truth, and we're using R1234YF.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to give you a background, that R1234YF is basically currently being used in, I would say, a majority, if not almost all of the mobile air conditioned cars air conditioner today. So if you open any new car that's sold, if you look at it, what refrigerant, they're probably going to use R1234YF. Okay, so that is the refrigerant that we're using.
R134 is typically used in heat pump water heaters. Why are you all the first to use it in a heat pump water heater? How did you all do that?
Well, thinking it's because I'll tell you the concern is because the minus, okay, between R134A and 1234YF, there's lots of advantages, like the global warming potential is actually less than 1. It's not 10, it's 0.5. So
Oh
you
my
think
gosh.
about it's less than CO2.
Wow.
Okay, so it's 0.5, 0.5. Okay, versus CO2 is 1, right? Mm-hmm. So the reluctance in the industry, and I would say industry, we're talking about the whole heat pump industry, is that this is mildly flammable. Okay, this is in terms of their category, they're called A2L.
Got it.
Okay, so it's a mildly flammable. So it's this flammability in terms of that, that brings things into concern in terms of the components that you make. Okay, the design in terms of, let's say, charge size and any mitigation factors for it in order to address this flammability concern. Okay. Now, but in terms of the, and reason, I mean, there's many reasons, but one of the reasons why is that, as I alluded it, automobile was using R134A and they switched to this. So it is for us, a easy putt, I would say easier putt, okay, to go from, which we were also R134 to this refrigerant, because they're so, let's say, identical and compatible in terms of characteristics.
Yeah. And I would just say, just generally, that refrigerants are moving towards A2Ls and A3s, and there's lots of work and regulations going on here. But I just have a new air source heat pump with an A2L refrigerant. There is, mild flammability, but we also pipe.
I believe the latest 2026 in the air source, I think the latest regulation is they're using, I believe, at least right now, starting this year, R454B. I think that's a common refrigerant that's used in North America in order to, again, to lower what they were. They were using 410A, which is 2000 something global warming, very high. Now they reduced this to 454B, which is 500. By the way, 454B is a blend. They call it it's zeotropic. It's a blend. And 30% of it, or around a third of it, is this R12334YF.
Got it.
So this is the way.
Yeah,
this is how a lot of these were able to lower their GWP. Is they put this R1234YF in there in order to lower it. Now, one might ask, well, why do I chose 1234YF and why do I use, for instance, the air source heat pump, all these blends? Well, I don't know. To me, it's a lot simpler to have a single molecule. And this R12 is just basically a single molecule versus, let's say, a blend. And maybe because I'm a single grain Scotch guy, I do like blend. Maybe that's, but I think it's easier. It's easier to optimize. It's definitely easier to design and service if you have a single molecule and not have to deal with so-called blends with, let's say, temperature glide differences, different boiling and condensing point. Those kind of stuff makes it very hard, especially for a category like heat pump in terms of water heater. The water heater, why it's kind of, it has a very wide operating range. If you think about it, cold water have to go from very cold, heated all the way to hot. So you're talking about maybe, 58 degrees Fahrenheit. You got to heat it all the way up to 120, 140,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. While at the same time, you got ambient that you got to operate. You can operate in very cold climate, down to 40 degrees, close to freezing, all the way up to in attics in Texas, all the way up to 120 and stuff like that. So, you got this big wide, that to me makes blends very hard to design to.
You're also future-proofing, right? I mean, the industry is moving towards, lower GWP refrigerants.
Well, yeah, with this, I think I have, with it being less than 1, I think I pretty much, I future-proof. I mean, there's always could be some changes in regulations, but at least right now, I think I'm fine all the way up to 2050.
Yeah, I would say so. Wow. Okay. Well, thanks for that deep dive on the refrigerant. That's really innovative and really exciting. Great. Well, let's get into some of the other features. Okay, so we're looking at the screen. I think next on our list is this leak detection. Some water heaters have different types of leak detectors out there. How have you all innovated at this part of the water heater? Somebody's water heater is leaking. How does the new GE profile GeoSpring understand that and turn off?
Yeah. Now, this leak detector, in fact, I got one out here. It's showing on the screen there. But
nice.
Basically, when we start doing leak detector and whatever and say, well, number one, I think in general, leaking, at least in the water heater, is not an issue. Okay. Assuming because in most of the leaking, at least what we found out is either actually the plumbing connections.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Or they just do not do proper maintenance on the anode rod protection.
Okay.
Okay, for the steel tank or any tank, in terms of in our water heater, to protect the tank, we have this sensing anode, so we know and can really tell you whether your protected anode is depleted and you need to change. So that's, we think, but there's still going to be some problem in terms of, let's say, whatever might leaks, whether it's plumbing connections or maybe there are some leaking going on. Okay, so, but where does that leak comes from? We don't know for sure. So what we have is we basically include this puck. Let's just call it the blue puck. Okay, that is connected to the water heater via Bluetooth. Okay, just like connecting Bluetooth earphones to your phone or something like that. So you connect it to your to the water heater. Okay, and you can place this anywhere. Okay, you can put it near the water heater, or in my case, okay, for instance, 2 months ago or maybe a month ago, we had a historic flooding going on here in Kentucky. I think it was like 15 inches of rain in 2 days or something like that. So I was really worried because in my basement, my sump pump was working overtime.
Yeah.
So I was worried that maybe it's going to overflow because my sump pump was just going to give out. So I put one of these leak detectors right by the sump pump. So it will give me a warning. It'll give me a warning because besides, you'll detect that and I'm connected. So you'll send an alert to my SmartHQ app, which we can talk about later, that there's a leak detected and I need to do something. So I put this right near sump pump, just thankfully my sump pump never gave out, so I didn't have flooded basement and stuff like that. So
that's the key differentiator too, right? Because the industry, about 60% of the industry today has this kind of a feature out there, but it's always tied to the water heater. And with what Craig just described, it gives you that flexibility with the puck that comes with the water heater, and you can add 2 more pucks to the unit if you need to.
yeah,
So you
actually
can
we can
add
add
to other
5.
locations of your
Actually we
home.
can add
Yeah.
5. So
And so,
so we
so the puck basically senses water nearby, and that's what gives you the
yeah,
warning.
right. This has some probes basically around it. So if water permeates through, then you'll send a signal, to the water heater. Okay, and the water heater, can, if you look above this unit and on this slide, you see a shutoff valve.
Mm-hmm.
Automatically it will shut off that valve so no more water gets into the water tank, so you don't have a perpetual leak and stuff like that. You would do that, but also again, you'll send me alert, and that's what I,
Got
at
it.
least in my sump pump worrying situation, that's what I use it for, as a
Ha!
leak detector for some other ulterior purposes.
That's super interesting. So I mean, the primary purpose is to detect if the water heater is leaking at some point, and shut off the water heater. But you have this option to put it for other up near other appliances and see if there's
Right,
any
and
leaking. Yeah.
this Bluetooth range, I believe it's very far. So I put it in the other side of my house and still will be able to receive the signal
Wow.
perfectly fine.
Cool. Well, that's super interesting. So it's a detachable leak detector that is, yeah, doesn't have to be exactly near the water heater. Okay. Um, great. Well, all right. So then most heat pump water heaters these days are pretty smart. They can be connected to, Wi-Fi and receive signals. We were talking about, demand response, this idea that we can run the heat pump in times when demand is lower, maybe less, the electricity costs a little bit less. But talk to us about GE's approach to being a smart water heater. How have you guys innovated here? What's different about the GeoSpring?
Yeah, I
Craig,
mean,
you
we
want to
just
touch on the whole EcoPort and the ability we've got on that with the demand response?
yeah, we can do that. I mean, of course, I think others, EcoPort, that's a name for the demand response module, the CTA 2045 module.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that we have. So, we are EcoPort certified in terms of the demand response, the CTA. What's a little bit different, I believe, compared to, let's say, other people who are doing this, is that our CTA EcoPort module is DC, low voltage DC base, versus high voltage DC, AC, as most of the industry, I believe. We did it for 2 purposes. Okay, again, this is from learning. I believe, during our early demand response test days, this is during generation 2, generation 3, we did a lot of, let's say, yeah, we did lots of trials and pilots of demand response all over. Okay, and there's 2 learnings. Actually, one's kind of relevant. Is basically, we were using Wi-Fi at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, and we found out it is very hard, because where the water heater are located, they're far, usually far out away from, let's say, the Wi-Fi router of your, but it's very hard to get good connections. In fact, we had to go and get range extenders and all those stuff for some water heaters in order to get the demand response signals.
Hmm.
Okay, that's so that's one kind of reason, that kind of do. I believe if we look at some of the current problems today with the CTA in terms of modules, a lot of them, they're using Wi-Fi, also experience this similar type of problems that we were experiencing when during our early incarnation, before all the demand response with the CTA comes to. So
Okay.
so we were saying, okay, what can we do? If we put this there's 2 form factors. One is the high voltage AC, one is the low voltage DC. Okay, what if we use the low voltage DC? Number one, it's more compact, it's smaller, okay, than the AC cousin of this form factor of the CTA 2045. Okay, but more importantly, it's low voltage DC. What does that buy me? Okay, number one, it's safer. Okay, so I do not have to worry about a consumer opening it up and touching it if they want to install a communication device or whatever it is.
Okay.
So I feel safe, relatively safe in doing that. Okay. Okay. Another advantage, because of low voltage DC, okay, I can basically safely, let's say, move this module if you so choose, because it's in, the water heater is installed in a spot that's so far away, it's hard to get signal. I can move that, okay, to a location, okay, without running AC wires all the way through. I can just basically a power over Ethernet. So it's a RJ45 Ethernet cord. Okay, I can just run that like you do running security cameras, these PoE security cameras, which is power over Ethernet. That's what we're doing. So you can just run the Ethernet cable, and move that module to a place that's that's easier to catch a signal.
Got it. Is the module detachable from the water heater? You're able to move it? Okay.
Yes. Yes, it is. Now, it is basically what you have to do is you got to, again, you can open it up and there's a one screw that you unscrew, then you can move it to if you need required to.
Got it. You're not getting a Wi-Fi signal. Got it.
Yeah, if it's a Wi-Fi signal. Now, I know some people, some demand response utilities, they're trying because they have that problem, so maybe they're more prone to use cellular, which are a lot more reliable, and not have to rely on that. But but maybe with this, you might not have to, to rely on 4G, because now you can just move this device closer to, let's say, kitchen or wherever that's closer to, you can get a reliable Wi-Fi signal.
Right. Wow. So it's easier for the water heater to be connected and to participate in these demand response programs.
And easier for, let's say easier for a consumer to install, because they do not have to, it's just like, it's low voltage DC, it's safe. They do not have to, open and have to worry about, getting into the high voltage AC in terms of connections and plugs and stuff like that.
Got it. Okay, great.
Yeah, I would say another one on top of that, it might not be relevant now, okay, in terms of, let's say, this AC DC discussion, okay, is that just because of the technology of getting these signals, AC versus DC. DC inherently has advantage in terms of speed, in terms of bit rate, okay, in terms of amount of bandwidth that you can throughput versus AC. It's akin to the old dial-up modem technology versus DSL. And that's what we're talking about, in terms of the technology type of differences. So
a lot more information will be sent a lot faster with.
Right. It might not be relevant now, but in the future it might be. So it's more future-proof in terms of technology, we think, in terms of, being able to
instantly communicate.
More faster. Yeah. Have more information.
Okay, that's great. Wow. We promised a deep dive, and we've still got a couple other features we want to talk about, and then we want to talk about plans for the future. So let's roll. I mean, we could spend a lot on each of these, Dan, but talk to us about, let's go through our list here and talk to us about the app. I mean, most folks are not used to running their water heater, using an app to run their water heater. But so why would they want to do that with their water heater? What are the advantages to having the SmartHQ app?
Yeah, so SmartHQ is the app that we at GE Appliances use across our offering, whether it's the water heater we're talking about, or a refrigerator, or a dishwasher, or your all-in-one laundry combo, right? This is the app that we use as a platform. So it's one app on your phone that can controls all of your GE appliances in your house. So we made it easy from that aspect. This is just kind of a screenshot that I'm sharing right here of what you would see like when you're changing the capacity, right? Putting that flexible capacity, turning it on or off. Some of the advantages that we've got with the SmartHQ is, you can change operating modes. You can integrate that flex capacity by turning it on or off. You can schedule your water heater as well. You can do it manually. And so that, if you've got peak periods Monday through Friday versus the weekend, change your water heater to make sure that you've got plenty of capacity based on what your habit is in your home. We've also got time of use features that are tied into the app itself to make it easy if you've got rate plans that you got in your area. And really the beauty of, and the final thing, I guess, with alerts and notifications, right? Use the app if anything ever comes up, you get that notification. Craig gave a great example of the puck, right? Let's see, you put that extra one there, your sump pump. Your sump pump goes out and you get the alert. So you got to take some action before you have some damage at your house. So the other beauty behind the app itself is that anything that we create, we can send for over-the-air updates. So it's really this is kind of one of the features that gives you future features as well. And that's how you should be thinking about it. But apps are so common these days that this really made a lot of sense, especially on this type of a product.
Yeah,
So.
I just want to cover one that I care about, that were at least people when during our tests and field tests, they particularly like, is
Okay.
number 3 bullet, time to recover, how much hot water remaining.
Oh yeah.
People
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it
People
show
look at
like a percentage of hot water remaining?
That show
Or
in terms of, it shows you in terms of how many gallons.
gallons? Oh wow. Okay. Nice.
So it tells you how many gallons of hot water, available hot water, and then
So like
it
in
also
real
tells
time, if my daughter's taking a
it'll
shower, I
change.
can be like,
Yeah,
hey, we've
you
only
can
got 12
change.
more gallons of hot water.
Exactly, exactly. And then the one right below it is what people like too, is that they like, especially for the energy conscious, see how much your water heater is consuming in terms
Yeah.
of electricity.
Oh
So
yeah.
you have a graph and you know exactly what days people are using, and you see something that's strange and going on, you can say, wait, what, suddenly I'm jumping up in my electric bill,
Yeah.
on the hot water. So they will be able to look that, and they like to see that, and especially when they look at it, and they compare to what they were using in electric, let's say standard electric water heater, and they suddenly see it. Wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah, saving hundreds of dollars. Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us geek out I've got solar panels and I can see how much energy I'm creating. And yeah, seeing that energy makes you a more conscious, consumer of energy, and yeah, helps you control your energy bills better. So that's cool. Great. All right. Well, let's. So that's big. Let's talk about. We're going to talk about the cold climate and the quiet operation a little bit, but that all goes back to this variable speed compressor.
That's
Maybe
right.
just briefly talk about. You alluded to this, Craig. That some are single speed compressors, but you all have gone with a variable speed. How does that give you better cold climate performance? How does it make it quieter? Talk to me
Yeah.
about that variable speed.
Yeah. Like I say, that's one things that we bank on for this cold climate, because again, you get for the single speed compressor, you get the saying, oh, my recovery rate when, let's say, during the winter time, start getting depleted, and then I have to, it can't keep up in the winter time, right? So by having this variable, we try to address that. So basically, our philosophy is that you should be able to set your settings, in terms of what temperature you want, what capacity you want, okay, that will satisfy, your household demand, okay, and you should not have to change that just because you're in the winter period, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the whole. So by having variables, we're able to basically sense that you're in the winter time. Okay.
The compressor then increase its speed when it senses these, colder temperatures.
We will sense that we will basically go into a higher, let's just call it winter operating mode, in which we have a higher trigger or sensitivity
Got it.
to recover water. So at the end of the day, you're going to get the same recovery rate regardless. In fact, it's probably a little bit more because we want to be conservative. Say in the wintertime, maybe you want to take a longer hot shower.
Yeah.
So we put the pad a little extra to give you a little oomph even of that, to get you even a little bit better recovery rate during the so-called winter or cold climate months. So
Wow.
so hopefully you should set it, and you should not have to say, oh, I'm running hot water during winter time. I got to bump up my, whatever settings.
Right. So okay. So that's winter cold climate performance.
And
when
then
the water's cold.
Conversely, you can think about if you're in the summer or very hot climate. We will go to, let's say, a hot climate mode.
Got it.
And we'll do all the stuff again to even out, uniform your recovery rate. Okay. Now, by doing that, we don't have to go as fast, and maybe we don't have to work as hard. So we should be even more energy efficient in the hot climate mode.
Wow. And the other maybe selling point on the variable speed is that they're quieter, right? This has been heat pump water heaters in their 15 years across the board. They've gotten quieter, but that has been a complaint from some folks that they're, you can hear the fan, you can sometimes hear the compressor. You all are saying that this, it's a 41 decibel, rating for your water. That's pretty quiet. Talk to us about like what that sounds like and how you got it so quiet.
Well, part of it is, the design. So all the moving parts, the sound producing parts, we made it quieter. Okay. So all of those, but like you said, there is this perception well, it's not perception, it's real, that it's noisy because, where it came from in terms of standard electric water heater, they're silent.
They don't make any noise. Yeah.
They don't make no noise. So of course it's different. Okay. So with this, we try to complain in 41 dBA. I don't know. That's about like Dan, what product that might come
it's
close?
Like in the dishwasher range, right? If the dishwashers over the years have gotten quieter and quieter with noise canceling packages on them. So this puts you in the same range as.
I think this is like if I look at the decibel, that's like a whispering the quiet library. I think that's that decibel range that we're talking about, like in the quiet library.
So that's quiet, super quiet. Wow, that's fantastic. Whew. All right. Well, we have looked at, I think, every bullet here. Is there any other feature we want to, before talking about plans, that y'all want to call out? I mean, this has been a great deep dive on all this innovation, but anything else before we go into plans?
I think we've touched on all these. Craig, you've touched on the serviceability side. I mean, and if you look at everything that we've done on the product, literally between the low GWP refrigerant, the high efficiency, the high performance, we've really made great progress in making sure that this is a truly a green product, right? It saves you money. It's better for the environment. It delivers a lot. So, hats off to our team here who developed this. Craig's been the lead on this, and just everything that has gone into this is truly puts this product apart from others that are out there and from our previous generations too. And hopefully you picked up on some of the things that Craig's talked about. A lot of the thought process that's gone into the product itself. We're addressing a lot of the previous concerns about these kind of products, and so we're really proud of the launch of this product coming up here. So,
yeah, I agree with you. It does seem like y'all have looked at the 15 years that this product has been heavy in the market. It's growing in sales, and you've looked at some of the pain points, and you've engineered your way out of them to address them, and that's really exciting. Okay, well, let's close with talking about the rollout of this innovative product. Where are we? We're recording this in June of 2025. When can we expect to see these exciting heat pump water heaters? What are your plans for rolling out the product?
Yeah, so we're in production right now with our 40s and 50s, and we're going to be following that up with our 65 and then 80-gallon capacity as well. Full offering, whether you look at it from a 120 volt to 40 volt, we're going to have options out there with and without mixing valves. So we're really trying to address any of the needs that are out there. So production right now, we're ramping up our inventory. We're building that up so that we can have a really, really soon to release commercial product available out there. So it's an exciting time for us. I'll tell you that.
And
So what
heat
time? You didn't say what time. Say soon. What's soon?
Well, by the time this airs,
All right.
they'll be available for sale. How about that?
They'll be available for sale. Great, great. And how about where? You know, different manufacturers have different strategies. Some sell retail, some sell directly to contractors. Where are you all thinking?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've got is, and we've kind of got it on the cardigan that you can notice behind Craig and myself. It's part of it says air and water solutions. So part of the business here with GE Appliances is the air and water solutions business, where not only the water side with water heaters, where we've got a full offering of not only heat pump water heaters now, but the standard electric, standard gas. But also part of our portfolio is we've got HVAC products as well. So really these products are kind of focused more towards distributors, the professionals, those sort of things. And then, obviously we've got our GE appliance side, which, the appliances are typically focused, around contractors and those sort of things. So we've got a wide variety of options, but really excited about what we bring to the market from the air and water side because of the complete solutions that we can bring to that category, focused on the professionals and really, getting the professionals leaned in and dialed into heat pump water heaters. That is going to really be how we can help to change this category a little bit more and get more heat pumps out there in the industry itself. So,
okay, that's great. And maybe my last question is on, one pain point for heat pump water heaters. It's a more complex product, and you have, for all that efficiency, you've got a lot of innovative, parts of the heat pump water heater, and that tends to add a little bit of cost. And so heat pump water heaters have typically been a decent amount more expensive than your traditional electric resistance or gas water heaters. How are you all coming down on the side of cost? Anything you can share with folks on what they can expect when they're so excited about this GE profile, GEOSPRING, what can they expect in the range of cost? What can you share with us?
Yeah, so we've covered a lot of great features, innovative features that really bring a ton of value to this product, but we'll find out there that we're going to be cost competitive with anybody else out there when it comes to looking at the price of these products, which kind of gets back to, one of the big movers and helpers on these products is incentives, right? You've got, tax credit incentives, pretty big tax credit incentives with these products. You've got Energy Star rebates out there, and who knows what's happening with that world. There's a lot of shakeup going on right now too. But even outside of that, you've got utility company rebates, even utility company rebates that are geared towards distributors. So like they call them the midstream or the upstream rebates. But really, it's a category that's still heavily rebate driven to help lower that cost of these products. And there's a lot of,
I would say, it's basically lowering the initial cost,
right?
Initial stickers, because the energy savings, it will pay back. I think there's, it pay back quick, actually.
Yeah.
It's the problem is just that initial sticker shock. How can you overcome that? If there's any innovate, besides, rebates, are there any either innovations in terms of, I don't know, I think Dan will be more keen in terms of maybe, your rental or something like that, something rent to own or something like that. I don't know if there's any innovation.
There's a lot of programs. A lot of folks are trying to crack this nut. How do you lower the upfront cost? A lot of good programs are thinking about how to do this. So yeah.
And also,
and
in terms of installation,
thing.
the installation, we talked about installation in terms of how to make this installation easier.
Yeah.
I think that's one, or
that's a key component.
Get the professionals comfortable with this. The more we can get, them comfortable in terms of the easiness, and then if things goes wrong, what to do, so we, like you say, this is more complicated. Okay. But complicated, it's a good and bad thing. Okay. Complicated could be, yes, you can have more failure modes, but also you can have more, let's say, smarter diagnostic in order to just pinpoint what exactly is wrong, rather than trying to hunt and peck and guess what's wrong.
Yeah.
So
Worst you can tell.
yeah, it's a double-edged sword in terms of the complications.
Great. Dan, any last thoughts?
Well, the other final benefit for these kind of products is they really pay for themselves in a matter of years, right? Think about the cost of this product versus standard electric and that energy savings. These are products that you can put in your house, and they literally pay for themselves with the energy savings, in a matter of 3 to 4 year kind of time frame. Throw the incentives on top of that, and that number even goes down even further. So they're very attractive products, and as this industry matures with these products, and especially with everything we brought to the market, it kind of makes the decision pretty easy, and that's why you see the passion around these kind of products. So
Yeah,
anyway,
great.
but we thank you for having us on
Yeah, thanks so much,
first
Dan.
ever
Thank
show
you so
here.
much. Yeah, thanks for doing this deep dive on a really innovative product. Congratulations on bringing this fantastic product to market. Thanks for walking through all the features and being on our inaugural episode of Heat Pumps and Cardigans, and wearing some great cardigans yourself. Thank you guys so much. We're excited to see how the new GE heat pump water heater rolls out, and yeah, appreciate you being on the show.
Well, thank you, Joe. We're
Thank you,
honored.
Joe. Yes.
Yep.